Welcome back to the Commanders Declassified podcast. We are in the heat of NFL free agency. And if you're a Commanders fan, this has to be one of your favorite times of the year because right now all teams are equal at 0-0, but we're all making moves at the same dang time. Man, and the Commanders were busy on the first day of the legal tampering period. Brian, you got the list. Why don't you tell us who we picked up out here?
Yeah, so everybody already knows, right? We did the Deron Payne 4 years, 90 million, 60 million guaranteed. We also signed interior offensive lineman Nick Gates, 3 years, $18 million with a $8 million guaranteed. He can play center, he can play guard. Commanders fans should recognize him. We played against him. He comes from the Giants, so he's familiar with us. He's familiar with the NFC East. Andrew Wiley, right tackle, right guard player from the Kansas City Chiefs, started all 20 games for the Chiefs at right tackle, signed a 3-year, $24 million deal. And per John Keim, I think earlier today, said he will play right tackle. So that means Sam Cosmi will slide into guard, and Sam Cosmi will play guard with that Andrew Wiley playing right tackle. So that's big for Eric Bieniemy. He gets a guy that he knows personally, who knows his system, and can help kind of teach it and relay it to the other guys on the offense. J.D. McKissick released today. Not that big of a shock. He's had 2 neck injuries the past 2 years, so it didn't look like he was going to be playing too much. And also, special teams all-star, all-pro Jeremy Reeves was tendered today. And why he was tendered is just because he hasn't played enough actual games to, officially kind of skip that particular tendering process. So it sounds like they're going to give him a contract. They just have to go through this tendering process before they can do that. But that's kind of where we're at. And of course, we did all the David Mayos and Khaleke Hudsons, a few days ago as well. And even Troy Apke came back. I know everyone's excited about Troy Apke.
Oh, yeah. It's not a season if Troy Apke ain't a part of that season.
Somehow still hanging around.
This year, though, this is the year he breaks out.
2 tackles, at least.
He's too talented to not break out this year.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so a lot to go through there, and we're going to be efficient about this. Brian, give me your favorite move so far of the offseason.
The favorite move of the offseason is we brought in some additional interior offensive line help, and that is this Nick Gates guy. We have had a center in Chase Roulier who he just hasn't been able to stay healthy the past 2 years, and it's really hurt us because once Chase Roulier goes down, we then go through a run of 3 other centers after him because the backup can't stay healthy, and then the backup's backup can't stay healthy, and we're on the 4th center by season's end. And it's just kind of led to a downfall with the play of the offensive line, then the play of the quarterback, the running back, like everybody suffers from there. So we're getting a guy who can give us center. He can play guard as well, too. Will he be a starter? I don't know. He's very similar to Wes Schweitzer, kind of that utility player. But Wes Schweitzer was very helpful, played a lot of games, started a lot of games for us these last couple of years. It doesn't look like he's coming back. This kind of looks like a very similar deal to Wes Schweitzer with Nick Gates. So if he kind of plays like how Schweitzer did, I think over the last couple of years, it's solid depth, but still more needs to be done. But at least they have a little bit better plan as opposed to last year where they did nothing and they let, Roulier get hurt again and then his backup Larson get hurt again and we had nobody.
Yeah, the obvious solution to your injury woes at center is to bring somebody in who's coming off a catastrophic leg injury. That seems like a foolproof. Because Gates, he had like an Alex Smith level injury a couple of years ago. It was bad. It was the game against us. So, we remember that.
Yeah,
he forgave us and came aboard.
Yeah, he had like 7 surgeries, and it was a long road back for him. But I believe that he's been healthy the last year or so. But yeah, I mean that's the level that Ron's shopping at, right? Like he's not shopping at the Gucci store; he's shopping at the bargain basement, partially used store. So that's what we're working with right now.
Yeah, Ron's popping tags.
Exactly.
Is that we do with free agency?
Yep.
Eric, what's your favorite move of the free agency period?
I don't like it. I don't know. I don't dislike really anything we've done, but honestly, I'm gonna say, and this is probably controversial, but letting Taylor Heinicke go, not signing him to a big money deal. Not that I don't. We talked about this in the chat a little bit today. I don't dislike Heinicke. I don't have any ill will toward Heinicke, but he's just a distraction if he's here. And if you have a young quarterback, presumably that you like, and you're trying to groom, having a fan favorite backing him up just isn't the way to go. The Heinicke cult is a very real thing, and it sounds like it's moving to Atlanta. I did see some comments and tweets of the like of people saying, "Well, I guess I'm done. This was Heinicke's the only reason I've been watching the last couple of years." And I'm like, if that's what was keeping you around, man, I can't help you anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I just feel like it was a good time for him to go. I'm really shocked he didn't follow Scott Turner to the Raiders. I was calling that for months, and I was wrong, which never happens. So good for him. He got some money. He got some decent guaranteed scratch. And he can help Desmond Ridder develop and or replace him halfway through the year and go 7-10. So good for Heinicke. I mean, I don't have any ill will towards him. He just is what he is. It's not his fault the guys in front of him couldn't stay healthy or couldn't play well enough to hold him off. That's nothing to do with him. He was available and he was there. So, we appreciate the effort he gave us. He gave us some fun moments. But yeah, it was definitely time to move on. Just curious to see who comes in now as our number 2 quarterback. But yeah, as far as the rest of the moves go, I really don't. None of them really move the needle either way for me. I understand what they're doing. As long as we enter 2024 with all of our draft picks and some decent cap space, I don't really not super worried about what they do this offseason. But again, we've been through that before as well.
Yeah, I think if you look at this free agency period, it's very, very reminiscent of the first free agency period when Ron Rivera came to town. It's that same level and caliber of player that's coming in. Like, remember the Kevin Pierre-Louis, right?
Yeah.
That free agency class. And these are the same kind of guys. And some of it worked out, some of it didn't. And, I just think we're back in a similar position, which I think is honestly somewhat of an indictment of the regime to this point that we are. But at the same time, we are adding pieces that can help us, especially considering some of the issues that we had last year. Now, some of these things I thought they would have addressed through the draft. They obviously chose not to. But here we are. It's good to see that they're being active, though, because I was really, really prepared for just a bunch of nothing to go on. And free agency is like the NBA trade deadline. You don't want to be that one team that's just not doing anything while the rest of the teams in the league are like shifting around players left and right. So it's fun. It's fun to be involved. If I said to you, Brian, based on the moves that they've made so far, how many wins have they added to their win total, like as compared to last year, solely based on the moves they've made so far? What would you say?
Solely based on these moves, I don't think you can say that they've added any wins. Maybe you could say one because Carson Wentz is not the starter, right? Like we're moving on, it'll be somebody else. So by that metric, it'll at least be better because he was pretty bad. But the guys that they have, they're all essentially replacement level players. They're all guys who are high end backups, low end starters. Andrew Wiley, he started a bunch of games for the Chiefs, so you could say, hey, he's a solid starter, but he's certainly not a high end starter or anything like that. The Nick Gates guy, again, you're talking about a utility player, really more backup than he is full time starter. And then everybody else that they've gotten acquired, the Cameron Dantzler that they've got off waivers. Again, these are all depth players, backups, things like that. So I don't think you can really say that they've added wins with any of their picks. But I also will say, I don't think we precluded ourselves from picking any certain position in the draft. We signed a right tackle in this Andrew Wiley guy. That doesn't mean that if the top tackle's there on the board, guess what? I'm going to get that tackle still, and I can move Wiley to guard. And now I don't have to have Andrew Norwell still playing guard, because right now it looks like Andrew Norwell is still playing left guard. So I don't necessarily think that, any of these moves added. We still don't necessarily have an answer at center either. We think Nick Gates is potentially a starter, but again, his career has told us he's probably more backup than he is starter. So I think we're still 500 or still even. We haven't done a whole lot yet to kind of really improve.
Okay, Eric, you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, we're 500. We're a 500 team with this coaching staff, or with Ron as a head coach. He's a 500 head coach. He's building a 500 team that's probably going to go 500, even when it's not possible to go 500 anymore because it's an odd number of games. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know they're trying to bring back Tyler Larson. He's another one of the rotating cast of centers that they brought in. He played well when he was in, but again, he was injured. Yeah. I think he was the third center that they went through, but he did play well. He probably played as well as Roulier. So I'm okay with him being there, but again, he's another one that in 2 seasons with us hasn't really been able to finish. So I definitely don't think we've improved. I think the other teams in our division are Philly's losing a lot of players, but they also have a lot of young players that are stepping up, that are ready to move up. They drafted guys last year that didn't play. That they're in a position to fill those spots that are being vacated by free agents, which is a good way to run things. The Giants are out here making moves. They traded for Darren Waller. We'll see how that works out. The Cowboys, did they or did they not go for Stephon Gilmore?
They got him.
They traded.
They got Stephon Gilmore.
Yeah.
So they're out there making moves. We'll see how they work out. I'm not a big splash and free agency guy. I mean, the Commanders, Redskins have been burned on that so many times that I'm not one of those guys that looks for the biggest names to come in. But this is a dull free agency period for us. There's not going to be a crown jewel. We're going to go find a backup quarterback, and that's probably going to be about it. Free agency wise, I don't see us really making any other moves prior to the draft. I am curious to see whoever they get, because a lot of the backup quarterback market seems to be drying up a little bit at this point.
Yeah.
One of the things you can say, is that they had opportunities to get, real upgrades for guys in free agency without breaking the bank. We go to linebacker, we get a guy named Cody Barton, and everybody's like, who is this guy? Where'd he come from? And there's a guy out there, David Long Jr., who was a really good linebacker, an ascending linebacker, and he signs in Miami for 2 years, $11 million. That's not breaking the bank. And we signed, I think Cody Barton to 1 year, $3.5 million or something like that. And it's those types of moves that kind of keep this team at 500 or make you scratch your head. Like, is the object here to get better or to tread water? And it very much looks like their approach is to tread water with some of the decisions that they're making.
Yeah, look, I try to be the practical, or at least a very practical person. But I do want to say, I think maybe we're being a little harsh on the free agency class to this point, only because our offensive line was so bad last year due to injuries that just by having guys that can show up and play, I think is a net positive in terms of win total. I'll give that +1 win. I think also just consistency out of the quarterback position, which is not really a free agency thing, but look, you know how I feel about Sam Howell. I need to see something before I get on that train. But the games in which Carson Wentz was bad, he was really bad, right? And that cost us games. So by virtue of starting Howell and assuming that he can at least be average, you're going to hopefully net some wins. Now, that all depends on the defense performing at the level that it did last year and having the same conditions occur again for that defense. Now, is that a guarantee? Absolutely not. It's not, right? There are a lot of things statistically and from a metrics perspective that were anomalies that helped the defense last year, right? that generally in NFL statistics means that you would generally, those things don't happen more than once, right? Within a certain number of time frame for a given team. So there's a possibility for regression on defense is what I'm getting at. So the question we're going to have to see answered is how good enough to overcome a potential regression on defense, just because effectively the defense got a lot of breaks last year, right? A lot of things went really, really right for the defense. So that's the key from the quarterback position. Losing Heinicke to me is, I don't know, yes, I know his record was good last year, but I felt like the defense played a big part in his record last year. And a lot of that was the team committing to running the football, which kept the defense fresh a lot, right? So I don't know that losing Heinicke is like a -3 games thing or anything like that. I think it has an impact, right? Because we in the NFL, only 12 teams started their quarterback every game this regular season, right? You had almost, I don't know, 2/3 of the league basically couldn't get through the league, or not 2/3, but somewhere in that range, right? Couldn't get through the league with their quarterback. I don't know how many games that amounted to, but it's a significant number. So if we don't have a good backup quarterback, we're essentially putting ourselves in a position to say, hey, if Howell gets hurt, our season is toast, right? So that counts for something. Last thing I'll say is, look, I think the moves to me indicate that we're going to draft a quarterback. I'm not saying it's going to be the first round. I don't know if it'll be the second round, but I think somewhere between the second and fourth round, it kind of gives me the feeling like we're going to draft a quarterback based on the moves that they've made so far. We'll see. We'll see. Real quick, Brian, does this change your perspective of where the first round pick is going? Like, based on the moves, do you feel like they're more likely to go defensive back now that they maybe solve some of the offensive line concerns?
I still think it's 50-50 offensive line cornerback. And what this has done now with even signing Daron Payne is kind of reemphasized to me what Ron thinks of this defense and where he thinks the strength is in this defense, which is our defensive tackles, which, is a roundabout way of me saying, I think there's a potential for, maybe not the first round, but edge rusher. I don't think Ron is very high on our edge rushers. Maybe Chase in particular. I don't know, but it just doesn't seem like he's very high on those guys. He signed the 2 defensive tackles, and we've only heard probably criticism of some of the edge rushers. So I still think it's most likely either offensive line, could be a guard, could be a tackle if one of those top guys falls. Skoronski, who's a guard tackle guy who could literally start at guard day one, or if it's Christian Gonzalez or Devin Witherspoon at cornerback, I think is still a big bet, especially if a bunch of quarterbacks go in the high in the first round. That'll push some guys down. But I wouldn't be surprised if there is edge rusher, right? We literally saw Ron do this last year. He probably thought he was going to move on from Daron Payne, and here comes Phidarian Mathis walking in the second round. I could see a very similar scenario. Again, not first round, but if the second round comes around, I could see edge rusher popping in right there. Something that, may surprise some people.
Yeah. Eric, what about you, man? Are you in agreement with that analysis there?
I'm honestly, the moves that they're making now, I feel like they're going to be in a best player available mindset. And I would not be surprised at even trading back a little bit because I see some guys that are projecting to go later in the first round that you could maybe recoup a pick or two elsewhere and maybe trade back and get Bieniemy a nice new weapon in Bijan Robinson. There's a ton of corners. Like I said, it's a deep draft for corners. The kid from Maryland, very good zone corner who's really shot up draft boards if he's there.
Deontay
Banks, thank you. I keep wanting to say Wright, but it's Banks. But he's moving up, in a lot of mocks. I don't know how realistically that translates, but I can see him. Brian Branch is another one. He's that Swiss Army knife type player that I do. Like I said, I think I said it last week. I do a million mocks, and he slips a lot And especially if, a lot of people are talking about QB going top 4, that's going to push guys down the board, even to a position where you could move back a little bit and trade. So I really think that the draft is wide open for this team. And I don't think they should be locking in on anybody, because how the draft board shakes out should make a huge impact, because they have filled some positions, but they have needs like pretty much everywhere, and they need playmakers on defense and on offense. I mean, I don't think, you've said it a million times, Ellie, we don't have like a home run hitter in the backfield as much as we'd like Antonio Gibson to be that guy. We just don't have it yet because he hasn't proven to be that. So if you can land Bijan Robinson, if you can move back to trade with maybe like Baltimore, who might move up for like a Joey Porter, and move back to like 22, 23, grab him, pick up a pick later in the draft, I'm all for it, right? So I don't think we should lock in on anybody is pretty much what I'm saying. I just think best player available for this draft, and don't trade up is my main thing.
I think so. Best player available would be interesting if he were here longer. I think it's almost, to me, it's two positions: it's corner or it's quarterback. I don't the longevity of his tenure would. I don't know. That precludes me from thinking it's going to be quarterback in the first round.
Yeah.
But I think it's probably somewhere. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, the top 4 quarterbacks are going to be gone long before 16, and there's no chance I'm trading up in this draft. Like I said, unless like CJ Stroud fell to like 9 or 10, then I might think about moving up, but that's not going to happen. And, it's really looking like, Arizona's probably going to move back, and you're going to see quarterbacks go 1, 2, 3, 4 in this draft. With the move that Carolina put in play, there's a lot of people that are saying that Frank Reich loves Anthony Richardson, right? And they just signed Andy Dalton today. That could be your number 1 pick, which go Carolina. But I mean, I can see maybe the Raiders moving up into the top 3 and grabbing Will Levis, and then you have a clean sweep at quarterback, and those guys are all gone, right? So there's no way we're taking Tanner McKee, or Hendon Hooker at 16. It's not happening. Yeah. My guy Aiden O'Connell, he's going to be there in the mid round. That's who we need to get, Captain Dadbod. He's a legend in the making. But yeah,
same age as us, so yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, but I do think that so is Hendon Hooker. They're the same age, or like 25. But yeah, I mean, I think that the quarterbacks are going to go really high, and they're going to push guys down the board. So I'm not a fan of locking into tackle or corner at this point, or guard or corner. There's a ton of good guards that are going to be available in rounds 2 and 3. Probably 1 or 2 of those tackles. The kid from Oklahoma that you guys really love, he might be there in round 2. He's not exactly moving up draft boards. Yeah, local kid though. I'm all for it if he's there, because I do think he's going to turn out pretty good. I like Broderick Jones a little more, but I think he's going to turn out. I think he's going to turn out good. Yeah, they do. Trent Williams country.
But yeah, if we can do a similar trade back with like New Orleans that we did last year, and we pick up that additional pick, I think that's certainly helpful, because we still have so many holes, even with this right tackle that we just signed. I mean, Ellie, I think you mentioned it maybe on the last pod or the one before. I mean, Sam Cosmi, even if he goes into guard, he still misses like 8-9 games a year. So, I mean, is he really a starter if you're missing 8 games a year, 9 games a year? Like, you're not a starter at that point. So you're still going to need O-line. Again, if one of these edge rushers, that Tyree Wilson guy, somehow if he falls, is Ron going to pass that up? Maybe, maybe not. Yeah. Oh, Van Ness, he looks awesome. I think he'll definitely be gone. But there's a lot of possibilities there, and I think it's now opened up a little bit more to some other positions that we didn't think were possible.
Listen, if we trade back, it better be for a 2024 pick, not a 2023 pick. Like, let that go. Anyway, all right. Let's finish up with this. Let's go to the teams in the NFC and see which ones we think have gotten better to potentially be in a playoff position, to see where we think the Commanders will end up as of right now. Philly has lost a few assets, but like Eric said, they've had some young guys in the wings. I don't think they've lost enough to fall out of the top 7 in the NFC. All agreed?
They lost their offensive coordinator. So, I mean, I think they're still probably a playoff team based on talent, but don't sleep on the loss of what's his name? The guy that went to the Colts. Yeah, Steichen. I wanted to say Hitchens. I don't know why. Because really, he's the guy that you remember that Sirianni turned over play calling to him halfway through, because they were just dogs at the beginning of 2021. They were terrible until he gave up play calling to Stitchen. So they may not remain atop the NFC, but I think, they're probably still the class of the division at least.
Yeah, I think they're in a big spot for a regression. I think the brain drain is real. When you lose that many coaches, you can't lose both coordinators like that. And then they are losing players, but certainly they have reinforcements with guys they previously drafted, and they're signing people right now. But just to think that they're going to continue that, I don't see it. I think they'll still be, better than us, unfortunately, but I don't really see them being that dominant again.
Well, yeah, and I mean, it's not at this point. It's not about are they going to go 16-1, but they are still good enough
Oh yeah,
to be a playoff team at this point. I think
Yeah.
so. San Francisco, same thing. They still have McCaffrey. They got Darnold, who's an upgrade over whatever they finished that playoff game with. And then at some point, I heard XM Radio say that if Trey Lance is healthy, Trey Lance is going to start, regardless of Brock Purdy and regardless of Darnold. That's their theory, though, at this point. But San Francisco, because of their defense, because of their offensive weapons, they're still a playoff team. I'm not even entertaining conversation that they're not at this point. Minnesota. Is Minnesota still in the top 7 of the NFC teams? They had a lot of things break their way too this season. I think they were like something like 7-1 or something like that in like one score games, or I forget what it was. It was something like that was just off the charts. I think if there's a team I'm looking at to say, hey, this team could be a lot worse than what they were last season, I think it could be Minnesota to fall out of the top 7 in the playoffs. What do you guys think?
Oh, I could easily see them not making the playoffs and being like really bad. I think just like you said, they won a lot of close games by kind of luck, chance, a bounce of the ball this way or that way. They won some games. Again, they beat us by a penalty, right? John Ridgway makes that penalty, lines up over the center when they punt or field goal or whatever, and then they score the touchdown. So I can see them just completely falling out of playoffs altogether because that was a very they had an awful defense and they somehow won 13 games or something like that.
Yeah.
Yes, and there's other teams on the rise in their division as well, which could push them back.
Yep. Dallas just got Gilmore. I don't think Dallas is going to be 12-5. I still think there's enough talent there with them retaining Tony Pollard on the franchise tag. They're still going to be a top 7 team at this point in the NFC. Let me see what the rest of the teams look like, but I think Dallas is probably still in the playoff picture.
We'll see. They went 12-5 last year. That means 8-8 next year. That's usually how it goes.
Yeah,
7 or whatever.
That's a playoff team right there, man.
Yeah, they'll still be good. If Dak is healthy, they'll be a solid football team. The Gilmore stuff, Terry did just fine against Gilmore, and now he'll get to see him twice. I think he'll be just fine there as well too. So I'm not.
Well, they lost their coordinator too, their offensive coordinator. They fired Kellen Moore. So
who did they hire?
McCarthy's going to call plays.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
So they're going to claim to be run heavy and then throw 40 times a game.
Perfect.
The New York Giants back with Brian Daboll another year. Daniel Jones is locked in. They got Darren Waller. I think that is a massive signing for the 12 games that he's going to be healthy, but it's going to be a serious upgrade over what they had there. He's a game changer at tight end, especially in our division, and this is why somebody like a Jamin Davis is important. He has to progress because he's got to go against guys like that, or we're going to bring a safety down to help cover him. We'll see how we work that out. But I think, I don't know. I'm not a believer in Daniel Jones. I'm not. I think the Giants paid him way too early. Should have kept him on the franchise tag, figured it out after another year, prove it to me. But I think that they are still going to be well coached enough to be in the top 7, maybe. So they're on my borderline teams right now, but I think I'd still keep them there for now.
Yeah, I agree. I think Daboll is
see
good.
About them.
Yeah. Daboll's too good of a head coach. I mean, you saw him coach circles around Ron this year in 2 games. So even though Daniel Jones isn't that great of a quarterback, he'll figure out a way to limit his mistakes and win games like he did this year. It was pretty impressive what he did this year.
They still need to prove it. I'm not going to just crown them. They need to prove that they can do it 2 years in a row. Dable did a good job this year. But we'll see how things go moving forward. They still need upgrades at receiver. I don't think they've signed any kind of receiver upgrades yet. And that was a huge issue for them last year. So we'll have to see what they do. There's not a ton of talent in the draft either. A lot of really good top end wide receivers, at least early on, but we'll see. I'm not crowning them anything yet.
Makes sense. Okay. And we'll go rapid fire one by one. Brian, Seattle, 9-8 last year. Re-signed Geno, lost their young linebacker to us. Devastation.
Yeah.
Are they still in the playoff mix next year, in your opinion?
I think so. I think another year for Geno will be much better. I think they'll get better around him. But yeah, Geno had a great year, and I think they're going to continue that. And he's going to have another really good year in this offense. So yeah, I think they're a playoff team, very similar to this year. Maybe a game improvement, something like that.
Yeah,
they'll be in contention for a wild card. I don't think they'll improve much. They'll be right about where they were this year, fighting for a spot, but they could make it. They may not. It'll go to the last weekend again with them.
For sure. Detroit, I'm going to say that they are going to be in the playoff mix. I think they got red hot last year at the end at the right time, or wrong time, not early enough, but they were one of the best teams in the league the second half of the season. They figured out their offense. Jared Goff was playing at an almost elite level at the end of the year. What they do in the draft on defense is going to make a significant difference. I know they had some key additions on defense already through free agency, but I really want to see what they do in the draft to shore up their defense. But I'm going to put Detroit right in that mix with Seattle, as they were last year, with Seattle and the other teams fighting for that wild card spot. They could even win that NFC North, depending on the regression that Minnesota makes. Eric, Tampa Bay, you see them coming back with the playoffs or being in that playoff fight next year?
No, I think they're going to have a down year next year. They're probably in the 6 or 7 win range next year, in my opinion.
Yeah. Agreed. Brian, Green Bay, no Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love all the way. What do you think?
They're going to find out what it's like to be in the quarterback desert like we've been for 30 plus years. It's going to be real lean over in Green Bay. Jordan Love is not it, and they're going to find out the hard way, and they'll I don't see a whole lot of wins. I think Eric said 6 or 7 for Tampa Bay. That may be the ceiling. Their height is 6 or 7. They could be, really like a 4 or 5 win team. It's going to be tough for them.
Yeah. Carolina, I think, is going to be a good team that's rebuilding, but they are going to rebuild. And therefore, I don't think they're really going to be in contention this year coming up. But I think they're going to lay down some really strong roots for a future of success. Eric, the Saints signed Derek Carr. Let's see what happens with Alvin Kamara's court situation. But do you see them being a playoff organization this year or in a contention?
Yeah, borderline. I mean, the NFC South is going to be not a great division. So they may be in that. I can see them being like a sub 500 playoff team, but I think they're somewhere between 7 and 10 wins probably next year. I don't think Derek Carr makes them demonstrably better because Michael Thomas is going to get hurt again.
Yep, definitely going to happen. Hey, Brian, ATL, Shorty, are they going to be in playoff contention with all of the moves that they're making, including signing Jonnu Smith? I think it was.
I think Jonnu Smith reunites with the head coach there, who was with him in Tennessee. I think they do. They were in contention this year until we beat them and kind of ended their season. And Mariota got benched and walked out on the team after that, and it was downhill. But they've made some really good signings, and I think they absolutely will be in contention for the playoffs and be improved from this year.
Man, all right. Yeah, they should be good. What Ritter does is incredibly important for them. And then what Heinicke does is a backup, we'll see. Los Angeles Rams, no. Eric, Arizona, the Cardinals. What do you think, man?
Who's their coach? Did they hire Gannon?
Gannon.
I don't see it with them. I'm not a Kyler Murray believer. I think he'll be a fun fantasy player. I don't trust him, and DeAndre Hopkins is a year older. He's not going to bail him out on those shoestring catches as the way he used to. I just don't see it with them. I think they're probably another 7-win team, 6-7 wins.
Yeah, I'm not a huge Kyler Murray guy myself. They've got a long way to go, and I think that roster is aging, and I think they got a lot of things to figure out, and they're going to want to turn things over with the new coach too. Hey, Brian, finish us up with Chicago. You saw the progression, or maybe you didn't see it, but for most people who watched the Bears, they said Justin Fields came a very long way last year, still has a way to go, but made some significant strides. They've added a ton of pieces, a ton of draft capital, and they got DJ Moore, one of my favorite receivers in the NFL, on their roster now. Are they going to be in contention for a playoff spot this coming season?
I think they're going to improve greatly. I still think they're a little bit of a ways from being in contention for that playoff spot. Yeah, they absolutely added a bunch of pieces this offseason. And yes, it was essentially after we beat them that Thursday night game where Justin Fields kind of started to take off and really kind of open things up, and they kind of just let him play like how he wants to play, and they started to put up more points. But I still think they're going to be another year away, but they're going to improve. But I don't think that much to be in playoffs. I still think one more year.
Yeah, Fields has to progress as a passer. He has to get better at that. And now DJ Moore is going to help a lot. Yeah. And I love Fields. I hope he's a top 10 quarterback. Like I love him. I've liked him since college, but he's got to progress as a passer this year. That's the key.
Yeah. Like Ron, when he traded for Wentz, I wanted him to trade for Fields. Like that was the move there, to get him in here and then build him up from there. I think he's going to be excellent. He just needs a little bit more time.
I think the Bears are going to make a significant leap. I think they are going to make the playoffs as a wild card seed. I think Detroit wins the division. I think the Bears probably win 8 to 9 games. And I do think Fields makes that leap. He started to make that leap last year with no weapons on offense. I mean, literally no weapons. If you guys remember what they did to that guy last year with getting him no help last offseason while they were trying to figure out if he's a guy or not. Now they seem committed to him. Good for the Bears. I think that they are going to definitely be in playoff contention this year. So all that being said means that the road for the Commanders to make the playoffs is not that easy. And it's really going to take a lot from Sam Howell to do it. The problem, or the monkey on their back, is new ownership means that if we don't make the playoffs, there's a good possibility we're going to have a whole new coaching staff in the building in the 2024 season. So let's see. Nothing matters till the games are played. So obviously there's still that to do and see where we ultimately end up. But I think we got our work cut out for us. Fellas, let's just go ahead and remind everybody to subscribe, like, comment, share, tell your friends to tell some friends. And you know what? With this episode, we're going to cross over 100,000 YouTube views. So we want to thank everybody in advance for that. Strong support from all you guys. We love and appreciate you. If you're not subscribed both to the audio and the YouTube platforms, make sure you are, because if you can't watch it on TV, then watch it or listen to it in your car. You know what I'm saying? We're everywhere. That being said, we are out of here. Hope everybody enjoys the rest of free agency. We'll be back with the latest. Check you later.